Shalom. This is your brother Yashamai from the GMS Atlanta camp. Before I get into this message, all praises, all glory, and all honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakodash, and double honor to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who will and teach well. This is going to be a lesson going into the grape subject, okay? How grape is dealt with, um, what a woman is how a woman is dealt with in regards to grape. And first and foremost, I'll say this, man. We need to begin when you come into this truth. We need to begin to come out of Babylon, right? Mentally. Why? Because what Babylon says to do and what the scriptures say do not always align. Okay, so we're called to come out. Okay, so hopefully this is an edifying lesson which will bring some enlightenment. Now, as I try to do with most of my messages, I try to get some foundational scriptures to keep in mind throughout this lesson. Okay, and the first one's going to be Romans 3, verse 3. And it says, "For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai without effect?" This subject may be controversial, may be a controversial matter to some Israelites, man. But then again, we have to eat the whole roll, man. Even if it doesn't make sense or you can't understand why. I mean, do you have faith, right? Are His ways not our ways? The answer is no. His ways are not our ways, man. So even in this modern day Egypt, man, you know, if you can't understand it, then leave the rest to it for faith and have faith that the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai knows what He's doing, because he does know what He's doing. Okay? Everyone wants to have faith on the sweet things, but not on the bitter things, right? And this topic doesn't even require the Abraham level of faith, right? Of sacrificing your only son. I mean, to be honest, man, this is a very low level topic. So, I mean, really, this is by the doing of the Most High, man, for those that it may be a stumbling block to, because see, Scripture says that He is a stumbling block, right? This is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 8. It says, well, let's start at 7. And we'll get it in the NLT. It says, "Yes, you who trust Him recognize the honor the Most High has given Him, but for those who reject Him, the stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone." Verse 8, and this is the point. "And He is the stone that makes people stumble, the rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they do not obey the Most High's word, and so they meet the fate that was planned for them." Does Yahweh Shai not come in the volume of the book? He does, right? And grape, as we're going to read about, is included in that same volume of the book that He comes in. Okay? But see, all this is by the Most High's doing, man. He can either be a stumbling block for you, or He can be the chief cornerstone for you. Okay? So is Yahweh Shai a stumbling block for you, or is He a cornerstone, man? Again, we have to eat the whole roll, man. And the next foundational scripture for this lesson, it's going to be 1 Corinthians chapter 6. So like 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. It says, "All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any." So we're going to read scripture that talks about the grape laws, but as scripture is going to show us, man, although it's lawful, we are in the land of our captivity. We can't practice our Passover in our land as it's commanded, right? We can't always make the Sabbath due to work. So if we can't do those things in Esau's kingdom, you probably shouldn't be trying to run around and grape because it's lawful for us to to do so. Okay, and I want to go into this word here too because I want to get the word expedient, man. Because it says all things are lawful for me, but not all things are expedient, and that word is sumphero. Okay, and the definition for sumphero is to collect, to contribute in order to help, or to be profitable. Okay, would it really be profitable for you? You know, and I know that brothers don't really need this explanation, man. But I'm just giving this explanation for those, people that, those scoffers. Oh well, why don't you go do it then? Because it's not expedient for us at this point. It's not going to contribute to anything that we're doing at this point in time. Although grape is lawful, right? It's not adding to anything here, man. You know, especially with the way that these females are acting, right? And so, one more thing that I'll say as we get into some more scripture here is, why do Israelites have such a hard time understanding this? When we're just talking about our history. See, Israelites will have a hard time eating this part of the roll, but they have no problem with all these Edomite statues, man, or these Confederate flags, right? You have like these weak-minded Israelites need to apply some critical thinking, man. All right, this is our history. You walk every day and you drive down Ponce de Leon Street. You walk, you go through, you drive through the city of Rome, right? I mean, there's many things out there in Esau's world that you have no problem with, but for some reason, our people just can't understand that this is our history, man. Okay, it's just some food for thought here, man. So, you know, first off, why is this topic difficult for some? First because over time, Esau has gradually changed our perception of what women are, right? Esau has changed the times to make us think that they are more than just a man's property, and we're gonna get scripture to show you that in fact they are property that goes from one man to another man, and that's how grape is dealt with. Damaged property, okay? But again, it's difficult for some, because we are living in the land of our captivity, right? This is Daniel 7, verse 25, because Esau has changed things, all right? This is Daniel 7, verse 25. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, the Israelites, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. This this devil has changed times and laws. He's changed our perception of things. For the longest time, we thought that our power had blonde hair and blue eyes, man. We thought this man was it. And just as he changed our perception of things, he's also just as he's changed our perception of our salvation, he's also changed the perception of women, man. Okay? And this this part says right here, it says, and they shall be given into his hand, man. Now, when you go into that word hand, it's yad, right? Which it actually means hand. Let me see. His hand, right here, yad, right? But it's also a figurative meaning, which is power, man, because we've been operating for the longest time under his power, under his perception of what these females should be treated like, man. All right, but this is all scripture, and as an Israelite, being part of an Israelite goes back to understanding your heritage, and goes back to understanding laws, man. And that's what this message is about our grape laws, man. Because see, even at the most basic instinct, man, we we understand, the world understands the principle that a woman belongs to a man. That's why, you even have clues of it in the practices that these people go through, right? When you so-called marry a woman in Esau's kingdom, don't you ask the dad to marry her first? Why? Because it goes back to how things are, man. And also, doesn't the dad walk her down the aisle and give her to you, right? That's because a woman goes from being owned by her father and being, goes from being the property and the responsibility of her father to then being the property and the responsibility of her husband, right? We again, man, we need to flee from the Babylonian mentality, man. We have to read these scriptures and believe, man. Okay? We have to read these things, man. So let's 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 continue to build on this point of females being property. Okay, let's see how females were treated in the scriptures. Okay, the first one, the first scripture that we're gonna get is Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 21, and we're gonna get some words on that. We're gonna get some words on that. All right, it says, neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife, neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. So what's on this list here? What's mentioned here in verse 21 is all property. And who's in that list of property? The wife, the woman. Again, because the woman is property. She goes from being the property of a man, of her father, to being the property of her husband, man. Right next to it, his ox, his donkey, and then it makes it clear for you, or anything that is his neighbor's. All right? And what is his his neighbors? Well, it's everything that we just read here, man. And then, just to make it more clear, the Most High gives us clues for us to be able to get this understanding, all right? Because let's get Deuteronomy 5 and 21 here, right? So that we can go back and forth on the words here. Okay? Now it says, neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife. And then check this out. Right after that, it says, neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's house, field, manservant, ox, maidservant, ass, or anything. The Most High gives us words, man. Okay, when you go into the word desire, that's what the word that was used for the wife, right? For the female, right? Neither shalt thou desire your neighbor's wife. Check out this word for desire. Is it's hamad, hamad, and that means to desire, to be desirable, to delight, to desire greatly. Okay, preciousness. Okay, so desire, is to basically want. Okay, but check out how the Most High does this, man, because all Scripture is inspired by the Most High. When you go into covet, right? Because right before all of the other property is mentioned here, it goes from desiring the wife to coveting everything else, right? The word for covet, let's get it. The word for covet is ayah, okay? Ayah. And that word is to desire, to incline, to covet, to wait longingly, to wish, to sigh like, oh, I want that. To want, to be greedy, to prefer, to desire, to crave, man, like to crave like a food and drink. It says to desire, to long for. I long for what? Not for the woman. I long for that donkey. I long for the property. I long for the field. Do you see how there's a great difference in desire and covet? And then do you see how scripture puts the desire for a female, but then instead puts a more tangent feeling of want, which is covet, to all the other property? Why is that? Why is that? Because a man would be much more lustful and desirable towards property that can actually bring in value and be sold. Man, why? Because scripture shows you that a woman is property, and there are other properties that are more valuable than her. So if somebody wants a donkey which can, which can till land and can make you money, like that's what we should be wanting for, man. But see, again, Esau Edom, he's changed the times and the laws, and in doing so, our perception of things and how we view women, man. Okay, because again, they're property. You know, if you're getting held up, right? If you're getting held up by a robber, okay, what do you say? Here, yeah, take my wallet. Especially nowadays, right? Because people are getting eliminated for like the smallest thing, man. All right. But the point is that when you're getting held up, you give them your property because you know that your life is more valuable. So you give them your property, right? I bring this up because Lot understood this. This is Genesis 19. Boom, boom, boom. Before they lay down. 19. And I will fetch a morsel. Therefore, men are judged. Shall be found the. What am I looking at for? And he overthrew, he escaped there, therefore I cannot. And in the morning, and they smote them up right here. Right here, Salakia. Verse 8 and verse 9. Okay? When Lot was getting, so-called held up by the people of Sodom and Gomorrah because they wanted to know the angels that came and spoke with him, right? And what did Lot do? He was ready to give up his property. What do I mean by that? This is Genesis 19, verse 8, man. Scripture tells you this. It says, behold, now, I have two daughters. I have two daughters, which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing. For therefore came they under the shadow of my roof, man. Lot was getting held up, and he was ready to give up his property just like anybody else would. Why? Because he understood that women were property and that the man was worth more. That's why he wanted to save the man and give up the property, give up the women. See, this is how Scripture tells us, and this is how the Most High feels towards women. Okay, right? And then we'll get one more scripture that shows us how the Most High deals or considers women here. This is Genesis. Let's get 29 and verse 27 to 28. Okay. Now this is a story of Jacob and Laban, right? And we know how. Let's just read the scripture. It says, verse 27 says, fulfill her week, and we will give thee also this, and we will give thee also this, and we will give this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week. And he, that's Laban, the father, and he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. What do we see here? We see Jacob, Israel, getting his wife, through the giving of the daughter of Laban. Laban was a father of Rachel, and Laban had the authority to give his daughter to wife to another man. Because why? Because women are property, man. Women were and are property. And Exodus 22 tells you how you would deal if your property, for example, like your ox gored a servant, right? It will tell you the payment, man. Right? And that's what we're going to get into, man, because women, again, are property. I know I keep saying that, I want to continue saying it because again, we have to, first we have to have faith, and B, we have to rid ourselves of the pollution, of the mental pollution that Babylon has caused us to inherit. Okay, so now let's get the law on grape. Deuteronomy 22, and we'll start right here at 22:22. If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. So shalt thou put away evil from Israel. Going into adultery, okay? Because if a woman was married and the man was also married, and they were going outside of the marriage into another man's property, right? If the man was going into another man's property due to lust, they would both be stoned, man. All right? Verse 23. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband, so she's about to get married, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, then ye shall bring both out unto the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones, that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he has humbled his neighbor's wife. So thou shalt put away evil from among you. So, hold on a minute. Let's stop and go back here. So, why is the man being put to death? The man is being put to death because he humbled his neighbor's wife. He knew better. The wife is being put to death because she didn't cry out. Two separate reasons for punishment. All right, because women and men are looked at as, completely different, man. Verse 25. This is the grape law. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her shall die. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. For as when a man rises against his neighbor and slays him, even so is this matter. Verse 27. He found her in the field, and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. So if she cries out, that's because she wasn't in accordance with what was going on. Verse 28. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found. So if a man sees a good looking female and takes her, and she's not married, she hasn't been proposed to per se, right? And if they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. A man shall not take his father's wife, nor discover his father's skirt. Okay, so a couple things here. First, in verse 29, who's the payment going to? Who's the 50 shekels of silver going to? It says, he shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels. Why? Because the woman is treated as property, just like a dish. If you break a dish, if you're at your friend's house and you break a dish, do you give the money to the dish, to the property? The answer is no. You give the money to the owner of the property. And in this specific example, because she's not betrothed to another man, the owner of the dish, the property, the wife, in this case, would be the father, right? And then it says, and he shall be his wife. Because see, even though we were able to do this in the ancient world, man, we didn't just go around and be lustful and getting everything. Because when you would take the hymen from a woman, you had to take care of her, right? It says, and she shall be his wife, because he has humbled her. He may not put her away all his days, man. So see, even with this, man, even with these laws, it comes responsibility, right? And it comes what's the word I'm looking for, man? Gosh, it comes with punishment, as far as the 50 shekels, man. You know, again, and then plus, we got to pay for it too, man. 50 shekels is quite a bit of money, man. That's 50 pieces of silver. I mean, shit, I'm willing to bet maybe one person that is listening to this message has one piece of silver, man, let alone 50. You know what I'm saying? So it comes with responsibilities, man. Okay, we didn't just grab the, it would not be lawful for you to grab one and then just put her away, man. Even see, the Most High gives us laws and standards for these things, man. Right? So I mean, there's really not much to it. It was pretty much cut and dry. Hopefully this lesson was edifying, and until the next one, I say shalom.